What is up, everybody? You know, I always start this show off by showing love to those companies who help make this podcast possible. First is going to be, let me change your socks. Guys, I keep telling you, I know socks is not the sexy thing, and people are like, Gil, these socks aren't cheap. I get it, but nothing in life worth having is cheap, all right? These socks are the shiz niddle bam. I love these things. I never thought that I would like socks or prefer socks. Well, that's probably not true because I do prefer certain kind of socks, but I say this all the time, but it's the truth. We always talk about boots, and I get why we talk about boots. In the trades, we're on our field, on our feet a lot, and we need to, be comfortable. Go home, your back hurts, etc. But we also need to worry about the socks we put in those boots. And these things, guys, no more sweaty feet. These socks are amazing. They are high density knit Ironside merino wool that keeps your feet from sweating in your boots. Natural thermoregulation keeps your feet warm in the winter and cool in the summer. They have the over the calf sock, the boot sock, the crew sock, and the ankle sock are their go-to everyday socks. They're breathable and good for year-round use, and you will never get those swampy, sweaty, nasty smelling feet that you get from normal cotton or polyester socks. They have a heavyweight boot sock is the perfect choice if you need a little bit more padding or cushion. It is a boot sock for the colder months. Guys, I have tested these out. These things actually are amazing. They're comfortable. They hug your foot. I told you I used them in the summertime when I was doing training. Mr. Zeke, who's in here, it was his company. I was out in the field all summer training these young bucks, which was a blast. But I would get home at the end of the day and my feet were not nasty. They weren't sweaty. These things really, really do make a difference. Guys, I just say get a pair, get a pack of 3, whatever it is. Try them out. And I promise you that you will like them. And when I work this out, I have a 10% discount for you guys. It's going to be down in the link, whether you listen to the audio after the fact or you're watching this on video. Go down to the show notes. There will be a discount code. It should be Uncensored 10, and you'll save 10% on your order. So go check out my friends over at Camel City Mill. They really, really do make some awesome freaking socks. With that being said, next, you know what it is. My friends over at Yellow Jacket for the last 75 plus years have been making some amazing tools, quality tools that are built right here in the US of A. And as far as I'm concerned, that means a lot to me. It may not mean something to some people, but it means it to me. The fact that they didn't compromise on quality, they didn't try to cheapen up and manufacture in Mexico or overseas. No, they still make everything right here in the United States. Their headquarters is in Indianapolis, I think it is, which I'm hopefully going to go out there at some point soon. But I love Yellow Jacket, and I think that they are really starting to catch up, and they realize that they made quality tools, but they had to put that little bit of pizzazz on them. And I think that they're starting to get back to there. They've been taking the feedback from me and others, and I think they're listening, and they are really knocking it out of the park. Their new manifold, this Titan Max, is absolutely amazing. I love this manifold. And I say that, you guys know me, I'm always 100% real, 100% honest. And just because they're a sponsor does not mean I will not say how I really feel. But I love this manifold. I love how it works. I love how it's built. I love the features, the magnets, the hook, you name it. I love this thing. And all of their digital stuff, wireless stuff can connect to it. And like I said, a lot of you out there, I get it. You may be so deep into a platform, it is hard for you to want to switch. You're like, man, I have all this field piece stuff. I have all this testo stuff, or I'm already into Yellow Jacket, and you don't want to switch. Guys, now with the Measure Quick app, you can use all these combinations of different manufacturers, and you can still all use them. So you don't have to go spend all of this money to go to a whole new platform. And guys, just know, so I see C Young put in the comment, I like that $1,500 price tag. Guys, there are different models, so be careful which one you're looking at. So if you get the most expensive one that comes with, the nice hoses and the book bag and all that stuff, yes, it is a little pricey, but there's different options to get it. If you have any trouble finding that, please let me know. I can get you in touch and get you linked up to get the proper one. But yeah, just to buy this, the top package probably is like $1,500, but you can get this manifold. It's a lot cheaper than that, I promise you. So please know that there is different options to get it. And a lot of times you're seeing the best package that comes with all this other things that some of you may want or may not want. So don't feel like that is the only option. All right. With that being said, remember 75 years of expertise built into every tool. On to the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. God bless the United States. And thank you to all those men and women who defend it.
Welcome to the #1 rated HVAC podcast. If you're looking to grow in the HVAC industry, then you're in the right spot. Blue collar people talking about blue collar shit. Let's get better together. So turn up the volume, buckle your seatbelt, and let's welcome your host, Gil Cavey Jr.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the HVAC Uncensored Podcast. I'm your host, Gil Cavey Jr. Here we are, another Wednesday, another hump night, and another amazing show for you guys. I hope everybody is doing well. Let me put this back up. Just a little hello to everybody that is in here. Mr. Sammy Andrew was in here. Mr. C. Young, Jason Johnson, what is up, my brother? One of my moderators is in here. Mr. Coolin' with Kraus. What is up, Kraus? Good to see you in here, Mr. Nasty. What is up, my man? Make sure I'm not missing anyone real fast before we get going. Mr. Zeke, what is up, brother? East Coast, what is up, my man? Thank all of you for being here. I really appreciate it. I love seeing, all these people in here on Wednesday nights. Obviously trying to get back on track. Had a little bit there where I wasn't able to do shows, but back into the routine, and especially because next Wednesday is Christmas, so I won't be here, and then it's going to be New Year's, so probably going to be 2 weeks before I am back. I may try to do something else. We'll see. Just stay up to date on social media. I'll let you guys know. But I'm going to try to do something. I don't want to go 2 weeks without doing anything. But that being said, man, I know most of you in here are techs, but this episode has been intriguing to me for a while. And this is a guest that I appreciate them because they were actually scheduled a while back with one of the shows that I had to cancel because of things that were going on, and the fact that they were so patient to come back on and reschedule and stuff like that. So I really appreciate that. But I tell you guys all the time that I get so many emails all the time from people saying, "Hey, Gil, I want to start my own company. I want to do this. I want to do that." And you guys know that I got to be honest with people. I don't ever want to scare anybody from starting their own company, but I want to be honest with you and set the expectations. And the reason I love that this is the fact that what they're helping people do as far as understanding their numbers and stuff like that, which is huge because a lot of good technicians who go start a business don't understand that fact. So I'm looking forward to this episode. And without listening to me talk, guys, please put your hands together and welcome. We have the CEO of SynkedUp, Mr. Weston Zimmerman.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah,
that
of
was
course,
a pretty
man.
cool intro.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here, man. I know I said it off air, but I do thank you for your patience and coming back. I respect other people's time, so I try not to have those issues, but sometimes they come up. So I'm glad you're finally here.
Absolutely. You're welcome. Thanks for having me. And you got to keep the most important things first. So I understand that completely.
Well, yeah. Well, thank you, man. I really, really do appreciate that. Well, Weston, I got to say, before we get going into the other stuff, if you don't mind just saying a little about you, your background and all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. My name's Weston Zimmerman. I grew up in central Pennsylvania, and I started working for a landscaping company. Your typical, less than $1 million landscape company at the time with 7 or 8 employees, and started there as a 16-year-old kid biking to work. And over the years, I watched the ownership of that company struggle in the exact things we're talking about, like knowing their numbers. How do you figure out when you buy a new truck, what does that have to do to your rates? What happens when insurance goes up? What happens when your competition's cheaper than you are? What do you do about it? And essentially, out of that struggle came a pursuit of figuring out how to understand our own numbers there at Tussie Landscaping. And we ultimately, long story short, I kind of got more and more involved as an employee in the company. I went from working on the crew to running a crew to then becoming the director of marketing. And as I got more and more involved, what happened is we were using one product and another product and a bunch of different spreadsheets and struggling to kind of get a system that just flowed together. And my dad had a telecommunications company that he sold and went to work for them. And the company that he worked for had a software development division. And I came home from work one day trying to figure out a way to make it easy to know what you should be charging, how to track jobs, make sure you're actually being profitable in the work. Because, working hard and making money doing the work are two different things. And anyway, I came home. My dad was working on the back patio, clicking around on some graphs on his laptop. And I was like, "What are you doing?" And he said, "Oh, I'm testing a software project." And I was like, "You mean you can just build stuff?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure." So really long story short, that's where the light bulb went off. And I went back to the owners of the company because I was just an employee, and pitched this idea of, "Hey, let's build our own solution." And we started doing it. The owners bought, and their motivation was doing it to, solve their own problem. But it wasn't long until I was like, "Dude, this is not a Tussie landscaping problem. This is an industry problem for all blue collar contractors. Like, we all struggle with, what should we be charging?" Basically, the common default is I look to my left. I'm like, well, I'm more experienced than that company. I've been at it longer than they have. And I look to my right and I'm like, well, yeah, I'm not quite as premium as they are or as established as they are. And I kind of plot my rates in the middle based on whatever I think I'm worth. It's an emotional equation. No math involved. Yeah. And in the meantime, I hire people, I spend money, I get stuff, I buy tools, I get a truck, and I'm still charging the same rate. And that's exactly how you get to the point where you work extremely hard, you have processed more top-line revenue than ever before, and you have happy clients, but you check your bank account app and you're like, how on earth am I out of cash? So my life is kind of given to today fixing that problem for contractors at scale. And I'm on a mission with SynkedUp to end that entrepreneurial poverty, so to speak. And when I see salt of the earth, hardworking people that give you a firm handshake, I want to make sure they succeed. I want to make sure they thrive and aren't just barely surviving and limping through, trying to hang on, trying to make it trying to string the shoestring budgets together. I want to see them actually do really, really well for themselves.
That's awesome, man. I love hearing that. And I feel the same way. And, I try to help in different ways. I didn't build a software. I try to give the advice that I do have, but I also love to learn as well, to make myself better as far as what I do. But I couldn't agree more that I hear the same story that we talked about off air. I started my own company, man. I'm out there grinding. I'm working. I'm so busy. I'm busy. And they get construed with being busy and being profitable. It's not the same thing.
Right.
They don't charge enough. They get done at the end of the month. They look in the bank and they're like, shit, I didn't make any money. How? I've been busy. Because you're not charging enough, man. You can't go out there just because you buy that part for $50 doesn't mean you go do the work for $150. That's not how this works. Especially if you believe in what you do and you're good at what you do. Charge for that time. Me, if I'm going to leave my family, I better damn well be handsomely paid for it, or guess what? I'm not going to leave them. I believe in what I do.
Yeah. And the tricky part is the overhead recovery portion of that. The bills that you have to pay, whether you win the job or not, your truck payment, your utilities. That's the tricky part, because as contractors, it's pretty easy to do the math on what for materials are involved, how many hours it's going to take me. Like, we see those direct costs pretty like it's pretty visible. Like, it's not something that's tripping people up. But what's tripping people up is, what is your true break even after you've also covered all of your overhead costs for the time that you're on that job site? That is the tricky part. And if you know your break even, many contractors realize that I am paying for the privilege to do this work for you. And that's called a hobby. And I don't know about you, but I like my hobbies to be more down the line of fishing or chillaxing with the family or something down that line, as opposed to grinding it out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, and the other thing is, and I know we still have a lot to get into, but I guess I want to ask this before I forget, is I also find how you were saying before, how it is, people using too many apps and being too involved. I also find people that they don't want this to be a problem, and then they overdo it. They micromanage and they do, hey, how many screws did you use in that job? You used 4 feet of tape or 4.5 feet of tape? Like, whoa. I get job costing. I understand, but there's some things are just called consumables that you just kind of wrap it up and then you can add that into the job to track it. But I'm not going to ask my techs to count how many fucking screws they use. Like, come on now. Now we're just getting ridiculous.
Yeah, I agree. The way I like to think about, I'm a big fan of KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. I don't want to over-engineer stuff. And the way I like to think about it is, I only want to know the data that will help me make a better decision tomorrow. Everything else is white noise. It's analysis paralysis. It's distracting. All I want to know is, did I screw up that estimate? What's going to help me make a better decision tomorrow?
Yeah. And that's the truth. So I guess before we get too far ahead of ourselves, I guess give me a little bit. I mean, I guess I know it, but a little bit of Sync's history or SynkedUp's history, and then exactly what you guys do. Because to be honest, I'll say this real fast. When I first saw it, I thought you guys were like an FSM or a CRM, as far as, like the service titans and stuff like that. Is it, or this is just literally for like business management, like numbers wise?
Yeah. So if you're familiar with the Service Titans or some other FSM, it is what I call a job management tool, but it's not a marketing CRM. It's not an e-blast tool. It's not it's none of that. What it's built around is ensuring that you know your numbers and you're actually going to be profitable. So the way to think about it is, it's your estimating and job costing tool, which does mean, yes, you're sending proposals. Yes, you're scheduling jobs. Yes, you're tracking time in the mobile app. Yes, I'm looking at my job information in the mobile app, the pictures and everything I got to get done. But it's all built around the frame of, am I going to be pricing that job profitably? And then I want to track that job to make sure I had my labor and material and everything accurate in the estimate. And if I didn't, job cost is going to show me that. And I want to go back and update my next template or a production rate to make sure that my next estimate is learning from my past mistakes. And the idea is you only want to make the mistake one time. So really, another way of explaining it is, in reality, there's hundreds of ways you can screw up profit, not make any profit in your business, but they all of those hundreds of ways roll up into one of two ways. And I have like a visual that I call the profit triangle. And on one, at the top of the triangle is profit, but at the bottom corners is your rates and your resources. And picture bidding a job. If I'm bidding a job and my rates are wrong, like I'm not calculating my overhead recovery properly, somehow, I'm selling work for $65 an hour, but it's costing me $70 to show up in a truck, that my rates are messed up. And on the other corner is resources in the bid. Like, so think labor, material, equipment, etc. And so when I say there's two ways to screw it up, two profit killers for contractors, what I mean is I could build a budget, or I could come up with my perfectly calculated labor rate and perfect on paper math. But then when I'm bidding the job and I say, oh, this is going to take us, 3 days and it takes us 5, it doesn't matter how perfect my math was on paper. I had the resources wrong and I'm still not going to make any money. Flip, vice versa is also true. I could be really good, many years of experience, and I'm nailing it on the resources in my estimates, but I haven't updated my rates, and in the meantime, I bought a truck, insurance went up, I spent some money on marketing, I did this, I did that. Well, doesn't matter how on point my resources in every estimate are. If my rates are wrong, I'm not making any money. So the idea is for you to make money, predictably priced jobs, with predictable profits is what I meant to say. You have to have both your rates and your resources dialed in. And SynkedUp as a tool helps you make sure that your rates are always dialed in, and it will show you through job costing where you're going right and where you're going wrong on your resources in your estimates. And then that's all happening under the hood automatically. And I'm just dragging and dropping in labor, material, product, send off a proposal to the client. They approve, sign, pay. I schedule it. Tech does it. They clock in their time. They clock in the resources they use, any material they used. And I have that information in real time in front of me. And so that's what the SynkedUp as the app does.
Nice. Yeah, no, I love that because I feel like you really need to learn this. Like we talked before, people are really good technicians, don't know business. And I find one of the mistakes that I find from people now is not understanding top line and bottom line. Okay. Because it's
big
different.
Difference.
You know, I made 10 million, but I only had 5% net profit. Or okay, well then you're not really doing that well. You have no cash flow, yada, yada, yada. But then I also find that some people think they're doing good when they're trying to bid a job and they're like, okay, well, I got my materials. This job should only take an hour, but I'm going to bid it for 4 just to be safe. But then they wonder why they're not getting the jobs. It's like, okay, well, you have to be accurate. You can't underbid. You don't want to lose money, but then don't overbid. That's just as bad because now you're not getting jobs. Like, yeah, I get it. You don't want to. Once you get busy, you want to make sure you're getting the right customers and you're getting
that's right.
The ones that you want to be at. But overbidding is just as bad as underbidding. You know what I mean? So there's a learning how to do it properly. You're going to have so much more business, happy customers. You're not going to have all those price objections because you're going to understand it. And I feel like a lot of people don't even try to understand it, if that makes sense. They just
it's like we fear what we don't know. And so they pull the card of, I'm not a numbers person. I'm not a spreadsheet guru. I'm not an accountant. My bookkeeper takes care of that. My mom-in-law does my books, whatever it is. Like we try to pull a get out of jail free card and say, I don't have to worry about the numbers. Well, if you're always addicted to the urgent and never give time for the important, you will arrive at a day where you'll be forced to reckon with it and you won't have a choice. And so you're just building up compound interest the longer you ignore this problem. Because by the time that your cash flow and your bank account is showing that you have problems, the $1 million question is, well, why? What do I need to fix? What's wrong? It could be any one of hundreds of things, which all roll up into one of the 2 things. So it could be both, actually, the rates and the resources. And if you haven't been tracking, well, it's an educated guess at that point. And probably what you'll do is raise your prices across the board by 10, 20% or whatever you think you need to do to, get some cash flowing again. And off you go. And the other really mental battle that contractors fight is you give a quote and your client's like, well, so-and-so, your competition gave me a price for 20% less or 30% less. And then you start second guessing yourself. Do I have something wrong? Am I too expensive? Am I running business the wrong way? Why is everybody cheaper than I am? And the reality is there will always be someone cheaper than you are. There will always be another contractor out there that hasn't yet figured out the hard lessons, the hard realities of what it costs to run a business. And they will be selling their work at cheaper than you can even break even at. And so the game is not to try to be the cheapest, because that is a suicide race.
Race to the bottom.
Yep. You will not live through that race. So the solution is to figure out what those numbers are, get to the point where you have the emotional posture of it is what it is, take it or leave it. You can adjust scope all day. You can adjust, choose a different, cheaper, more, whatever. But at the end of the day, I can adjust scope, but I can't adjust price. And there's no discount without adjusting scope. And once you have that point, that's good. Then after you've got that nailed, it's going off and making sure that you are chasing the right target clientele. And what can often happen is as you start your business, you work for pretty cheap and you start working for a certain class of clientele. And then as you get better, more premium, have a better product, better service, you start going up market, but your other clientele is still telling, man, you're so expensive. And you start having all this head trash about it. And anyway, the point I wanted to make is there's way more fruit on the vine on focusing how to create more value for your customer than there is on trying to shave 10, 20% off your price that would just strangle you anyway. Yeah. Because do the things that your competition is not willing to do. Create the value. Amen. And that is where you will win.
Yeah. Amen. I agree with that 100%. And I see a lot of people, like, I think it's good to know your competitors' prices just to know where you stand. But don't base your prices off of them. You don't know what their bills are. You don't know what their rent is. Exactly. How much their vans are. Like, you need your own loaded labor rate. You need to charge based on what your numbers are, how much your costs are, and all this kind of stuff.
That's right.
And when I see people, they're like, oh, this company's charging X for a diagnostic. We should lower ours. Or they're charging this. I don't care what they charge, like we need to charge what we need to charge. And then when customers like bitch about the price, my always go to is, hey, we charge only what we have to give you. We charge only what we have to provide 5-star service. And most people are like, huh? Or I'm like, hey, do you like us having those clean uniforms? Do you like those brand new trucks when they pull up? Mm-hmm. Do you like having these techs that are trained properly? Like they know what they're doing every time they come out? Yeah, of course. All right. Well, that's why I cost more than the other guy. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
And my favorite comeback to that is like, well, your competition gave me a cheaper price. I'm like, why haven't you hired them yet?
Yeah. Or I say, I wonder what they're not doing to get it down that low. People are like,
the point is when you ask them, why haven't you hired them yet? They're like, oh, yeah, there was a reason I didn't just go outright, just accept that person's proposal. Yeah, whether you admit it or not, there was a reason. So, it's like if you're basing what you charge based on what your competition charges, unfortunately, you probably also don't even know. You don't know what their costs are. You probably don't even know your own costs if that's what you're doing. Yeah. And so buckle down. I know getting into the office and looking at numbers, you'd rather go get your wisdom teeth pulled.
Yeah, right.
But buckle down and get it done. And the good news is you can literally do it in under an hour. It's not hard.
Yeah. No, I agree. And what you learn, and I still have a lot to learn. And when it comes, I'm good with the numbers. And what's really good about the company that I'm at now is that one of the owners is a financial guru. She's a professor. She teaches accounting and financial stuff. So I've been able to learn, like, I know more about the trades business and operating and stuff like that. But when it comes to numbers, she's like, oh, you do this because of that. And that's because of this. And I'm like, oh shit, I never heard it like that. That's good. Thanks. I'm glad you know what I mean. So it's, you got to constantly still be learning. But I know this whole thing is wrapped into business and numbers. But so I guess I want to ask this, and I know it's, a goofy question, but I know somebody's going to ask it or I'm going to get an email about it because this is going to replace, like if somebody's interested in this, it's going to replace the Service Titans, the House Call Pros, like they would leave those softwares to use SynkedUp, correct?
Yeah, in most cases, yeah, unless you're using some of those products like a marketing software. If you're using some of those products like a marketing CRM to drive leads and to book appointments, then you would continue using that. But once you have the lead, everything from the lead downstream is in SynkedUp.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
So what different like markets as far as trades have you guys been in?
Well, we came from landscaping because that's a company where we built this thing. But we have customers that everything from remodeling. We have this one customer that is an antique window restorer. We have septic and excavation contractors. We have electricians, but primarily landscaping at this point because that's where we came from. But what service you provide in the context of software matters less. Because as long as you're a contractor providing a service with labor, material, and equipment, so to speak, these things about needing to calculate your rates and manage the resources in your estimates and track those jobs is true. So those, that's why I'm sure there's some services where it might not be the best fit, but in the general home services, blue collar contractors, our average customer is somewhere between $200,000 a year in revenue, all the way up to $5 million a year in revenue. So that's kind of the slice of the market that SynkedUp serves the best.
Yeah, no, I love that. I've put it out here real fast. I'm going to put it out again. If you wouldn't mind explaining, that free gift that you were given to everybody, the link that you sent me that I put out, just so they understand what they're clicking on if they do.
Absolutely. Yeah. So what that link I gave you is a little tool that we developed to make it easy to kind of get started thinking about what it means to know your numbers and like just kind of sanity check what you're charging for your hourly rate. So that tool I sent you is really like an hourly rate calculator. So picture it's an online tool that kind of like is like a car payment calculator or a home mortgage payment calculator. And it basically asks you, what are you charging now? What are you paying for your field labor today as a company, like a whole lump sum for the company? How many payroll hours is that represented? Now, how many of those payroll hours are unbillable? Like things where you can't bill your client for because maybe they're washing a truck or something at the shop. And then your overall overhead expenses. So you total up all your insurance, your fuel, your marketing, everything you spend behind the scenes to keep the lights on. Throw those values into that man-hour calculator, and it'll spit out exactly what you should be charging per hour. Nice. And so it's kind of like a sanity check. It's directionally accurate. And you can book a consultation call, right? Like on that link after you use the calculator, it'll say, hey, if you want to dig into this deeper or you're not sure if you trust your own inputs, like you can book a consultation call and we'll help you go over your numbers for free.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. And see, I love sharing like this because I feel like so many like Service Titan and a lot of these big players, they put so much money in these markets that people think that they're the only ones exist. And I've used most of, and I'm not saying they're bad. They are, you got to know how to use it. But for a lot of people message me and like, is there anything else out there? Because I don't like this. And that's why I love shows like this. So people understand there are other options. And like we talked about, maybe HVAC is not your niche. That's fine. But business is business. Getting your numbers correct, knowing that you're making a profit, the customer, you having to schedule the call or, the billing, the invoice and all that kind of stuff. All businesses do that. All of them are doing the same thing in a different little way. So I think this is good that people understand that there's something else out there. And especially what you said your target is. I feel like something like this, especially for the people we were talking about, the technicians who are messaging me, hey, I'd love to start my own business. This is what you need. Mm-hmm. Something like this that's going to help you learn how to price correctly, how to know what to charge per hour and all that kind of stuff so that you don't fail in business. We say that
exactly.
A lot of you are going out and you're failing. We just don't hear about those stories. You hear about the guys on Facebook that are like, man, I started my own company. It's been 2 years and I'm $10 million and blah, blah, which half of it's bullshit. But, normally that's not true. There's something in the background that happened that you just don't know. They had an investor. Somebody gave them money, like something. Most of them didn't just guess and get it right. So that's why I love that something like this exists, because I do think it's needed for those guys starting out. Because some of these other ones are too hard to figure out. Like Service Titan, we use Service Titan where I am now, even though House Call Pro is kind of a sponsor, but still, Service Titan does a lot, but I'll be honest, it's a pain in the ass. Like there's a lot on the, until you figure it out, if you don't have somebody that's in the office, that's in that software every day, it can be challenging. Like it's hard to know where to go to get what.
And that kind of is often true for those mid-market or enterprise level tools that are built for the $10 million and up businesses. It's almost like it's out of reach for the person that doesn't have a dedicated office person. They run their business from their truck seat. It's hard to get a system like ServiceTitan. ServiceTitan's awesome. Like, I have a lot of respect for them, but like you said, there's different tools for different problems or different profile of business. And the idea is just to find the one that fits what you want to do in your business the most. And if you want to be an owner operator with a small team and you just want to be profitable and really do well, go find the tool that fits that. And the other advice I would give you from my experience, even if I hadn't started SynkedUp, is what I've learned in business is, okay, I've done this with HubSpot. I'll use a real life story. I've done this with HubSpot where I started looking at HubSpot because I was intrigued with the tools, and I was like, $800 a month? There's no way I'm doing that. Well, what I realized, took me a couple years to realize this, what I realized is the problem I was trying to solve was 10 times that, $8,000 a month. And so if you have a $100 price tag for a product that does nothing for you, it's worthless. It's wasted money. But $100,000 for $1 million problem is cheap.
Yeah.
You get the point? So it's not about what's the price tag, whether it's a piece of equipment like that tool you were showing off, the $1,500 tool on the beginning, whether it's the tool that just makes your job easier, or whether it's a software, or whatever it is, a piece of equipment. It's not about what the price tag is on that thing. It's about what's the cost of the problem it's solving. And is there a positive return on investment? And if there's a positive return on investment, then it's worth buying regardless. And the other thing that sometimes we get tripped up on is like, well, I'm spending my profit. I'm spending my fun money. I would have bought a boat with that money if I hadn't spent it on that or whatever. It's like, no, you're not. You're not spending. This is the cool thing about getting into knowing your numbers is, no, you're not spending your money. You're spending your client's money. You just build the budget for whatever it is that you design your business. I wish I could buy this piece of equipment. I wish I could hire an office admin. Put it into the budget. And then if you can sell the work at the rates that thing produces, bingo, there's your permission to go spend the money. And it's not coming out of your profit pocket.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I that's where people get in trouble. You get owners that get too greedy or they get too ahead of themselves. They start spending profit like they're a $10 million business when they're really a $5 million business. Like, out of the profit. Like, it was funny. I was telling somebody this today. What I've done that has helped me help build businesses get built is most people look at the top and they go from the top down. They're like, oh, if we worry about the top, the bottom will just fix itself. I worry about the bottom. As I take care of the bottom, it just slowly builds it up. Like for me, especially in the HVAC industry, if I worry about the technicians, I'm not going to preach numbers at them. We'll talk about it, but I'm not going to preach numbers at them because they don't care. They don't want to hear about that. I want them to make good money and give them incentives to put money in their pocket. And if I make sure that all of them are happy, the culture's good, they're making good money, everything else is going to take care of itself. Okay, so if I give them the opportunities, they're happy. I know that we're charging accordingly because I know my numbers. I know where they should be. It just kind of, it works itself out. And I don't have to be like that owner like that one commercial when, or somewhere when the guy pulls up and the employee's like, hey, boss, like that's an awesome new truck. And he goes, yeah, if you work really hard next year, I'll get a new one. You know what I mean? Like it's not having that kind of mentality because a lot of employees think that, the owner is sitting in the office, blowing his nose with $100 bills. And when sadly, most of these businesses, that is not the case. It's really not.
Exactly. And that's why, and kind of a tangent here, that's why I am actually a fan of open books with the employees. And what I mean by that is their assumptions about what you're making is far worse than what you're actually making.
Yeah.
To your point. And so I'd rather just be like, hey, You want to make more money? I want to make more money? Yeah, cool. Common ground established. Okay. Well, if we want to make more money, we got to make the company more money. Okay, even the new employee gets that principle. And then you're like, okay. And for us to know our numbers, this is what we're gonna have to do. I need you to track your time. I need you to tell me what product you're using. And again, not down to the seventh screw that you used. That stuff, create a miscellaneous budget for that and just dump it into there. I'm just talking about the billable material that, the copper pipe and whatever it is that you're putting into the product, into the job. Like, so that if we miss the mark on the estimate, so I know it and I can fix it for the next one so the company doesn't lose its profits. And if we do that well enough, guess what? We all make more money. Kind of to the point you were making about the incentives, as the manager or the owner or the leader, it's all about figuring out where you need to put the carrots or the incentives so that if they do those things, the company will do well. And then give them an incentive, give them a bonus, whatever you want to do. But like, it's about designing the carrots with what they need to do to make the business healthy.
Yeah, and it also helps you keep employees because I always say most people don't leave for money. They leave for opportunity. So I make sure that their opportunity is here and that they're going to grow. And the other thing
that's a good point.
Yeah, and I used to always do like the thing that I learned, the dollar bill trick. Like every dollar that comes into the company, you get a big giant one. And you go like, okay, well, this piece of the dollar goes to pay for this. And then when you actually get to the end of what's left in profit, they're like, oh, well, shit, that's not that much. Or, one big thing in HVAC is how much people charge for capacitors, because normally it costs like $15, but companies charge $300-$400. And I say, hey, pick a couple of things. And I explain to them, okay, this is why we charge this. This goes here, this goes here, this goes. And when you break it down, they're like, oh shit, I didn't know that. And then you get some of them are like, man, we should probably charge more.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Now you're getting it. Now you understand what goes into this, that we're not just being a bunch of price gouging assholes, that this comes from somewhere. I didn't just pull this number out of my ass. Like, it was calculated to charge this for a reason.
Yep. I agree. I love that.
Yeah. And I feel like that's honesty when you explain that to them. When they understand the why behind the what, they don't come in because, like you said, sometimes their assumptions are worse than what it actually is. They assume that it's, oh, they charge this because of this reason and this reason. Well, I rather not let them assume. I'll just tell them, when we have company meetings, I've always went over, hey, this is how much revenue, like we met this goal. Thank you guys so much for doing XYZ. We got here because of you. And, explain to them how it happened. Explain to them what profit is and all that kind of stuff, like where we need to be. So I try to let them understand so they feel like they're involved in it. Like, this is our company. This person may be the owner, I may be the GM or whatever, but this place that sinks or swims depends on all of us. And when you get people in that kind of mentality, it's so much better to be able to do things and grow. And I think that's the culture that people are looking for, especially the younger generation. A lot of them, it's not money, it's paid time off. Like, knowing who you're targeting and stuff like that makes a big difference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And often, like, let's just pretend 3 months from now or whatever, that you go down this rabbit hole, you figure out your hourly rate based on your own costs, and you start job costing every single job. Like, often when you realize that, hey, we missed the mark on a particular job, you know who has a better idea as to what went wrong than what you do? Your team, whoever was on that job. And so, like, I loved what you said about, like, well, man, maybe we should be charging more. Yeah, exactly. And often once you do a good job of communicating these things and teaching them how business works and why you do the things the way you do, it's not just because whatever, you'll get a lot of buy-in. At least put it this way, you'll get buy-in from the people you want to keep.
Exactly. And the ones that don't probably stick out like a sore thumb for a reason. They're not those people. Just like I explained to people, the different kind of customers. You got transactional customers and relational customers. Those transactional ones only care about price. They don't care about how nice of a guy you are, your company's reviews. They're worried about price. Whereas those relational people, they will spend money. They do care about the story, the relationship that they build. So understanding these things goes a long way. Like a lot of people that are successful, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. All these different businesses, like we said, go back into the beginning. Business is business. Top line, bottom line has been the same for years. It's what you have to do is already there. Don't try to reinvent the wheel, but just learn learn those basics, learn those skills and get good at it. And it's amazing how you can take that and run with it. You don't have to be an accountant.
Exactly. Yeah. And to the conversation about the team members, like how fun would it be if you started building a little team of entrepreneurs, people that behave like an entrepreneur inside of your own company? That's where the magic gets unlocked as to what you can pull off with your team and your growth in your company.
It's funny you say that because there's been plenty of times I've told guys, I'm like, hey, your van, your truck, I want you to think of that as being your company. Okay. That is your little warehouse. And I'm going to say that you own it. Obviously, I want those to be a revolving warehouse. A guy's like, hey, I want to keep 2 of these special air cleaners on there because I like to sell them. Okay, cool. I'll give you 2 of them. Keep them moving. You know what I mean? Like, and when they feel, I'm like, hey, and if you start going crazy on revenue, guess what? If your truck gets X, I'll give you this percentage bonus. You know what I mean? Something that drives them. Like if you go above and beyond, guess what? I'll go above and beyond and I'll work something out with you. If it's money, you want a vacation, I'll buy you a vacation. Like we're helping each other. This doesn't have to be a one-way relationship.
That's right. That's right. And, fortunately, in the experience where I worked for 15 years, I worked at that landscaping company for 15 years. And I think one of the ways to destroy trust or credibility with your employees is, like you said, well, yeah, if you work really hard, I might get a new truck next year. Like if you're driving in a Denali and everybody else is pulling in rusted out trucks or, old cars, that kind of shows that tells a story about your team and the way you run your business and your culture. Like as a business owner, I want my employees to thrive and do well and have opportunity and have a rope to climb. And if you take and consume every dollar that the business makes upon yourself, well, you'll have a hard time building that team that you want.
Yeah. And I'm one of those people that I'm not saying that I don't like nice things. I mean, I do. That's why I work hard to provide nice things for my family and myself. But I also I judge my success as, a leader, as a management, something like that is how other people do. Like one of the things that, and all these guys know that I hang my hat on is the last company I was at. I had I think it was like 4 or 5 guys under the age of 25 making $100,000+ a year. They would come in and be like, hey, I make more than my parents. And we gave them financial lessons. Like that meant the world to me. Like that's what I want to do. I want to impact other people's lives because if I can lift them up, remember, they're on the bottom. I'm lifting them up. I'm lifting myself up too. And I feel like it's not a hard way to think. It's just a lot of people don't stick to it because they do get selfish. They think about the me. I don't think about myself. I think about giving stuff to them and helping them. And that's my passion. And by doing that, I'm in turn helping myself and the company that I'm doing it for.
That's right. Yeah. If you help enough of people get what they want, you'll get what you want.
Yeah. And that's why I don't know if you've ever heard of Tommy Mello, A1 Garage Doors.
Yep.
Yeah. That's why I love Tommy. For a guy that's as big as he is a very devout Christian, which I love that about him. But he said that when I went up, I made millionaires. I brought the people with me that helped me get there. And that's what I want to do. I want to make millionaires. I want to make people be financially free. He would make up positions for people that were loyal to the business. He's like, so I have some positions in my company that other companies probably don't have because that person was so loyal. I found what they were good at and I made a position for it. And I'm like, that's freaking awesome. I love that.
That's impressive. I love that.
I love Tommy. He's amazing. Out of there's a bunch of big gurus that and he's not in our industry, but well, in my industry, I guess I can't say our industry, but
Yeah.
yeah, I love what Tommy stands for because he's just true. A lot of these other ones, they're very knowledgeable and they're good. But the sad part is, with this podcast being successful, it's awesome that I get to meet a lot of cool people. But some of them, when you get to see them behind the scenes, you don't like what you see. You know what I mean? That's just the guy. You're like, ugh, this guy's kind of a douchebag. But that's not Tommy. Tommy's amazing. So, but shit, man, I feel like so this show's in an hour, and we're already an hour, and I feel like I've been talking more about business and not enough about synced up. So please, if there's anything we'd like to cover and talk about that before we start to close this out, please, the floor is yours, Weston.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that we.
No, I've been enjoying this too, man. This is actually what I like to talk about because really, the product synced up. It's just to fuel everything we have been talking about for the hour. Right? It's just to get that technical stuff under the hood stuff dialed in and right. So I don't have to devote any more brain cells to it than absolutely necessary. And off I go doing what I love to do. That's the point. So I love this. This is a great conversation. If you're wanting to know more specifically what SynkedUp actually does, so picture it as your estimating and job costing tool, your scheduling, your time tracking, your expense tracking, your invoicing. It's all of that. And we make it really easy. Like the average SynkedUp user can cut their estimating time by 90% just by building templates and production rates and having an item catalog with all the products that you sell right there at your fingertips, building templates. You can literally create estimates and send them to your clients in seconds if you have a good library of templates built out. Or better, another example I like to give is a lot of contractors will be like, yeah, I'll get back to the office and I'll work up the numbers and I'll send you the proposal later or whatever. I'm like, what about if you just send that proposal or show that proposal to them before you even leave the driveway? Like your chance at closing that deal will go up exponentially if you can get them that proposal before you leave, as opposed to going home and doing it later. The number one indicator of who's going to get that job is not price. It's a factor, but it's not price. It's first quote back. That's the number one indicator of who's going to get that job.
And you'd be surprised how many people don't follow up.
Yes.
They just assume I didn't hear back. Oh, they went with somebody else. No, they just haven't made a decision.
The bar is so low that you barely have to get a few of these things right and even be borderline professional with your communication and how you do things, that you will already be head and shoulders above. I can just tell you stories of local contractors just trying to get something done around here. It's like, it's ridiculous. And the number one complaint homeowners have is I can't get a contractor to call me back, or I can't get a contractor to give me a price. That's why I say the bar is so low in many markets. I live in rural Pennsylvania, so maybe that's not true where you live, but it's maybe not fair to say this. I was going to say it's so easy to get this stuff dialed in. Yeah. Okay. Relatively speaking, I get it. You're going to have to go do what you don't love and sit at your desk for a minute and figure out what you really should be charging, which, by the way, when you sign up for SynkedUp, we do that for you, with you. Like when you sign up, I should say this, when you sign up for SynkedUp, you get a dedicated financial coach, which helps you dial in and maintain and stay on top of your hourly rates and what you're charging and your overhead recovery and all of that. And you also get a dedicated account rep to help you build those templates and get those production rates dialed in and get you over the hump, so to speak, of get out of learning how to do this and get into actually sending profitably priced jobs in seconds or minutes and winning more jobs at the prices you need to actually run a good business, the business of your dreams. And you don't want to get stuck where you're stuck in the middle, where on one end you have customers telling you you're too expensive. On the other end, you have employees telling you they need more money, and you're caught in the middle feeling like there's no solution. It's hopeless. So if anything I said sounds like something that you struggle with, I mean, that's why we exist, is to solve those problems. And you can start going down the rabbit hole in that quick little man-hour calculator I shared the link with you on. And if you use that hourly rate calculator, as soon as you use it, it'll show you it'll show you a calendar where you can book a call and actually get a free consultation on your own numbers. That's probably the best place to get started. That way you kind of get an idea of like, this is interesting, and then you can ask some questions with an expert looking over your shoulder and get that dialed in for you. And whether you want to buy the product or not, it's totally up to you. But again, just remember, ask yourself not what's the price tag of the product. Ask yourself, what's the cost of the problem I have? And if you're a $500,000 or $1 million contractor with no money, you have an expensive problem. And the good news is it's not that hard to fix. I mean, sure, you could do everything SynkedUp does in a spreadsheet if you wanted to, but contractors don't do that. Most contractors don't love that.
I've gotten better at it.
SynkedUp is all about making it easy.
Excel still sucks. Let's just be real. I've gotten better. I know how to use it. I've been proud of myself for some of the things I've built. I did not have a lick of fun doing it. Let's just throw that out there. Weston, this has been awesome. I love talking this. And just so everybody understands that we talked about this, Weston is not a financial coach per se. He is somebody who's been in business, who helps businesses grow and built a software to fix his pain points when he was an employee. It wasn't even his business. So please understand that, because I want to make sure I do that separation, because one of my buddies is joking, but for the same token, we have had a lot of people that I've had on here that were financial gurus, and they were blowbags, to be honest. A lot of them were blowbags. So I just want to make sure that we put that separation is where our conversation went. But that's not what Weston is. And I appreciate the fact that we talked about all these things that your software can help fix, and not necessarily like this wasn't a sales pitch the whole time. So I appreciate that. And I think that this is going to get way more value and go further when this gets released, at least audio wise, for that reason, if that makes sense.
Yeah, dude, I'm no financial guru. Sure. I love figuring out how to solve problems. I love taking a difficult, this sucks, I hate doing this, and figuring out a better way. That's why I show up and do what I do every day. But I literally, this is jokingly, I'm a hillbilly from the hills of Pennsylvania that built waterfalls and patios most of my life, that just so happened to figure out, hey, this doesn't have to be this hard. And we built a product for it. That's who I am.
Hey, that's awesome. Some of the best things that were ever built, somebody built for themselves and then realized, like you said earlier, other people have this same problem as me. Maybe this can help them too. That's some of the best, some of the best things that were ever built. So, that's awesome. But, so so that link is in there if you want to click on it. I also have their website that is in the show notes. If you listen to this audio after the fact, those things will also be in those show notes as well. So you can click the website or click the link that is the man-hour, hourly charge calculator that Weston was talking about, and you can schedule a call at the end of that as well. So I'll have both of those if anybody wants. If God forbid you can't find it, then just email me and let me know, and I will get that information over to you. So, Weston, sadly, these hours go by so fast, man. I got to start closing this out, but I want to thank you so much. It's been a blast, man. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Me too. Thank you. I appreciate you having me on, and I hope that somewhere someone got some real value out of this. It'll change the trajectory of their business story.
That's awesome, man. Please stay in touch too. If we ever do this again, have another conversation, I would definitely love to have that.
Absolutely. You bet.
Yep. Thank you, buddy. If you want to hang tight, I'm going to go ahead and start closing this thing out.
Okay.
Well, everybody, like I said, man, thank you guys so much for listening to this. And like I said, a lot of you guys out there that are just starting your business and stuff like that, something like this would be good. Go check it out. Know that there's another option and pick the right one for you. I'm not going to tell you which one to pick, but at least now you know there's something else out there to look in. Tersh, Excel is fun for you. You're good at that kind of stuff, Mr. AI, not me. But I got to talk to you, Tersh. I got to find out about some of the AI when it comes to Service Titan. But yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you guys learned something. And I felt like this was a good episode that I can't tell you how many emails I get about people wanting to start their own business. So that's why I love these shows, because I feel like it helps answer all those people who watch the show. So I hope that this helps some of you. And please, by all means, get in touch with Weston and his team. The links will be in the description in the show notes. Like I said, whether you watch the video podcast or you listen to the audio podcast, all of it will be there. Check it out. They'll help you. Like you said, they'll give you a free consultation. And maybe you'll find out at the end, hey, this isn't for me. Or maybe you find out like, hey, this is exactly what I need to get going. But at least now you know that this is even out there and you know that it's an option. All right. I always want you to do what's best for you and your company, regardless of, my sponsors or people that are on the podcast. I want you guys to know what's out there and you guys do what's best for you. You know that. So, yeah, I want to thank Weston for coming on. I really enjoyed this talking about these things. And you guys know how I feel. Like I said before, I love that we were just talking about different business issues and stuff like that. And then the fact that his software can help take care of this, that it wasn't just, a sales pitch. So I want to thank Weston again for that. That is genuine and that goes a long way. All right. With that being said, man, I'm going to start closing this out. Make sure that you follow the podcast on all the social media sites. Make sure you leave me a 5-star review if you haven't already, whether you audio, video, whatever it is. That would be greatly appreciated. I'm going to try to do something over the next 2 weeks on different days. I'll put something out to keep you posted because obviously we got Christmas and then New Year's Eve. So I'm not going to do something on those holidays, but I will pick a day to do something, whether it's a live stream, whatever it is. So please stay posted for that. All right, guys, remember to be safe out there, man. Keep your head on a swivel. I want each and every one of you to make it home the same way that you left. Crazy driving, make sure the breaker's turned off. I say the same stuff every week. Just please be careful. All right. I don't want to see anything happen to any of you that could have been prevented. So just please be careful. Do the little things. Set yourself apart from the next guy or girl. All right. I don't want that poor me story. I wish this happened, wish that happened. If you want something, grab it by the balls and go fucking take it. Okay. Maybe don't grab it by the balls. You might get arrested, but you know what I mean. There's so many resources for us nowadays, whether it's a book, an online course, a podcast, a YouTube video, whatever it is. Keep being the best version of you. All right. And then just care about other people, man. Be that person that spreads positivity and just cares about people, man. Just be a good human. That's really the best way to say it. All right. And with that being said, I love you guys. I appreciate each and every one of you. If I don't talk to you again, I wish you a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, the happiest of holidays. Please enjoy your family. And remember why we celebrate Christmas. Somebody is a Christian. That day is more than just giving gifts to me. But I hope all of you guys have a great one. All right. With that being said, I appreciate each and every one of you. And I'll talk to you mofos later. See ya.
Thanks for listening to the HVAC Uncensored Podcast. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook and Instagram or email us anytime at hvacuncensored@gmail.com. Now, get back to work. Shut this down. The views and opinions shared on the HVAC Uncensored Podcast may not necessarily be the views and opinions of our sponsors or guests.
Nano, as always, thank you to all of my moderators for being here. Appreciate you guys. And thank you to everybody being here. See you.